a woman who resists a rapist with slaps and bites. Or he gave the example of the Polish in 1939, the Polish trying to resist the Nazi invasion of Poland. And in both cases, Gandhi said, whether it's a woman resorting to slaps and bites in order to fend off a rapist, or it's the Poles in 1939 resisting this overwhelming force, the Wehrmacht and the Luftwaffe, with the pitiful Polish army. And I see a Polish friend in the back, one of my former students. Don't be offended. He said in both of those cases, in his view, it wasn't violence when the woman resorts to the slaps and bites, or the Polish army in the face of the Nazi invasion. He said because the quote-unquote violence is just purely symbolic. And he said all it really is it's a kind of fill-up in order to give you the courage to die with dignity. And anybody who compares the situations, it doesn't seem to me, or it does seem to me, that the Hamas rocket fire, to which I'll return in a few moments, the Hamas rocket fire fit within the category of the slaps and the bites, or the Poles in 1939, which, from Gandhi's point of view, was not violence. In any case, what did happen in Gaza after the attack began in December 27th? Right now, the usual language is to refer to the Gaza war. Some people refer to it as the Gaza operation. And I think the first question to ask ourselves is, was it a war? Is that what happened in Gaza? After January 18th, the Israelis were very proud of themselves. They were walking around boasting about how they had put those Arabs in their place again. They showed who's in charge in the Middle East, that they had effaced the defeat that they suffered in 2006 in Lebanon, and that now the Arabs know who's in charge because they won that war in Gaza. But an Israeli strategic analyst writing in Israel's main newspaper, most respected newspaper, Haaretz, he said, it is very dangerous for Israel to believe it won the war when there was no war. In reality, not a single battle was fought during the 22 days of fighting. This was not a war. It was not even a real battle. What happened on the ground? Well, it began with the first week was what they called the air phase of the attack. And in the course of a full 22 days, Israel flew about 3,000 sorties, attacks by air on Gaza. Every plane returned, none was down, none was even hurt or damaged. And that's not surprising because the Palestinian resistance had no air defenses, no anti-aircraft defenses. The planes, to quote one military analyst, the planes operated in an environment free of air defense, enjoying complete aerial superiority. It took as much courage to fly planes over Gaza as it does to shoot fish in a barrel, or for those of you who frequent Coney Island, as I do, it took as much courage as it does to shoot the freak. After the first week, Israel launched its air and ground offensive in Gaza. There were no battles. There couldn't have been any battles because Israel was using special night fighting equipment. Hamas couldn't even see them. And that's not just speculation. It's what all the soldiers said. Many soldiers after the Gaza events, they spoke out about their experiences in Gaza. So this is what they said. Soldier, there was nothing there. Ghost towns, except for some livestock, nothing moved. Soldier, most of the time it was boring. There were not really too many events. Soldier, I did not see one single Arab the whole time we were there. Soldier, everyone was disappointed about not engaging anyone. Soldier, usually we did not see a living soul, except for our soldiers, of course, not a soul. Soldier, go ahead and ask soldiers how often they encountered combatants in Gaza. Nothing, no one. Soldier, there was supposed to be a tiny resistance force upon entry, but there just wasn't. There was no one. Now that comes from a publication called Breaking the Silence, a compendium of soldier testimonies after what happened in Gaza. And that's one side of the story. There was nobody there. There were no battles. There were no enemies in the field. And that's half, as I said. The other half gives you a full picture. And it's worth it for you to look at it for yourself. If you get home, to just enter under Google, Breaking the Silence, and you bring up the document, and then you enter under the search function, enter the word insane. And if you enter the word insane, you'll see there are 7 times it appears in that document. Now the soldiers were interviewed separately, but they all kept saying the same thing. Namely, that Israel used insane amounts of firepower in Gaza. Israel used insane amounts of firepower in Gaza. Insane, insane, insane. No enemy in the field, no resistance, no battles, but Israel is resorting to insane amounts of firepower. One soldier said, "This was firepower such as I had never known before. There were blasts all the time. The earth was constantly shaking." Another soldier said, "On the ground you hear these thunderous blasts all day long. I mean, not just tank shelling, which was a tune we'd long gotten used to, but blasts that actually rocked the outpost, to the extent that some of us were ordered out of the house we were quartered in for fear it would collapse. They were shooting and firing into the horizon, but the houses that they had commandeered in Gaza were shaking from their foundations, even though the firing was into the distance." So what happened in Gaza? Actually, some of the soldiers came up with quite illuminating metaphors. One said, "It felt like hunting season had begun. Sometimes it reminded me of a PlayStation computer game." Another said, "You feel like a child playing around with a magnifying glass, burning up ends." Now, when I was a kid, I remember, and I used to take that magnifying glass, focus the rays of the sun, and incinerate ants in an anthill. And I can't say I'm proud of it, but I had, even at that age, enough lucidity of mind not to imagine I was engaged in a war. And that's what was happening in Gaza. It was like a child playing with a magnifying glass, burning up ants. About 13 to 1,400 Palestinians were killed, up to as many as many as 4/5 were civilians. About